What's good, guys? Once again, this is your boy Kid Achilles here with Obi-Wan episode 5 discussion. I think this was my favorite episode so far. So as usual, I am super excited to go ahead and get into this. But before we get too far into everything, go ahead and like this video. Might as well go ahead and get it out of the way. You know it's gonna be good. Give me a subscribe if you haven't. Thanks to everyone who has subscribed already. To everyone who's new, hope you guys are enjoying. There's going to be plenty more to enjoy coming up. But yeah, this is low-key the second time I have to record this video because I messed the first one up, so let's go ahead and get into this. Alright, so the opening scene for this episode was a little different from the parallels that we've been seeing in previous episodes. We get a full-on training scene of Anakin and Obi-Wan back on Coruscant. Anakin is clearly still a Padawan here. You can tell by his haircut and like the way that he's dressed. So this is probably taking place around the events of Attack of the Clones. Now this part wasn't like shocking to me. I definitely wasn't expecting to see it, but it was so refreshing that I feel like it nearly broke my heart a little bit. I love Darth Vader, but sometimes it does hurt to see like how far Anakin has fallen and just how his motivations and what he does is just like so fueled by rage. But anyway, we cut to a scene where Reva has been invited aboard Vader's ship. She's expressing gratitude, just super thankful to be on the ship, and Vader's just like, cut the shit. He bids her kneel and then grants her the role of Grand Inquisitor. Now this felt a little rushed for me. I didn't think that she was going to become Grand Inquisitor so quickly. I guess it makes sense though if there are only 2 episodes left. But also as the episode goes on, we figure out why she was made Grand Inquisitor so quickly. But I'm not going to touch on every single thing that happens in the episode. I'm assuming you guys have watched it already, so you don't want me just throwing the same shit you've just seen back at you again. So I'll touch on the things that were important to me so that we can get into our bigger talking points. So the main objective for this episode is to get the people safely off of Jabeam and get Leia to Alderaan using old trade routes. This mission is mildly successful thanks to Obi-Wan and a sacrifice from Tala, RIP. So ultimately everyone escapes, but they are easily followed because the hyperdrive is down and the Empire is on their ass. So something that I really enjoyed about this episode is the way that the flashbacks to Obi-Wan and Anakin sparring all bleed into events that are happening presently in the episode or are about to happen. Something I also found really endearing was Obi-Wan's relationship with Leia. I think very often we see children dismissed because since they're young, we don't think they know as much as we do about anything. And we see that happen in real time here when Leia volunteers to help and Roken is like, hey, it's not playtime, princess. But Obi-Wan's like, yo man, hear her out. So I definitely love the ways in which we are seeing Obi-Wan's wisdom show itself as he's aged during this time. I also think that it's really important for Leia to have these types of people around her as she grows up. She's being molded by leaders into a leader, and all of the people who know that it's important to instill these traits into her are people who knew her mother. And so it's nice to see Leia not just dismissed. We also see that Tala's story comes full circle. It's revealed that while working for the Empire, she rounded up 14 Force-sensitive people, and then the Inquisitors that she was working under then murdered those people, which she didn't know was going to happen. So she feels responsible for having taken those lives, 6 of them having been children. And so by sacrificing herself to get all the people off of Jabeam, she's paid that back and then some. So for the last time, big shout out to Tala. Alright, but guys, we were right about Reva. I say we. It was definitely Ryan's idea, but I was the vessel for the idea, so I played a part. The burden of genius, man. But yeah, this is definitely a rough scene. Hearing her talk about how she stayed alive during Order 66 after she was wounded, just laying amongst the dead bodies of her friends and what became her family and feeling them go cold and then escaping once the coast was clear. Definitely understandably pissed off. With that being said though, she's hardcore out for revenge against Vader, but she's still skill-wise worlds away from where she needs to be to actually get it. So it was surprising to me that she was unwilling to accept help from Obi-Wan, knowing how dangerous Vader is, and hopefully knowing her own limitations. And we see that play out. Vader ultimately dispatches her pretty easily. He doesn't have to exert himself really at all for that fight. And then he gives her the same wound that he did when he was Anakin and she was a kid back in the temple during Order 66. Not only is that a slap in the face, it's a saber in the gut. Also, this made me think about something from last episode. Toward the end of the last episode, Reva called out to Tala and called her a traitor and said that she was betraying everything that she was by going against the Empire. I think Reva is definitely projecting here because everything that she has become goes against what she was being trained for in the first place at that Jedi temple. So everything that she's trying to avenge, she is railing against directly by trying to get the revenge. Literally by joining the Empire and becoming like a part of the Sith, but just going for revenge at all in the first place. Which like makes sense, but I'm sure younglings are still taught that. And maybe the Jedi code wasn't completely instilled in her yet. I don't know, the situation's a little complex. So we see Kenobi offer himself up to Vader. This plan is twofold. He needs to buy time for all the people to get off of Jabeam. Also, he's given Reva a way to get herself close to Vader. Seemingly, I think you can definitely tell that his true intention or that his biggest concern is to get the people safely off of Jabeam. But as long as Reva believes he's at least helping her to get what she wants, then it shakes out for him. Now we get another one of those good training flashbacks. Now Obi-Wan is using these flashbacks of him fighting Anakin to help him strategize against Vader now. So everything that's going on in this sparring match is foreshadowing what's like about to take place in the next actions of the episode. So in the flashback, Anakin is more skilled than Obi-Wan. You know, he's stronger, and so he's able to just use power and force and just, you know, put strength behind his lightsaber to ultimately use aggression to win. And it's because of this that Obi-Wan is able to outsmart him. And as we've said before, Obi-Wan knows Anakin. They were brothers at one point, and he's been responsible for pretty much all of his training. So Obi-Wan remembers this about Anakin because ultimately that was his downfall, and he uses that against him. So I love that we are seeing an Obi-Wan who has really started to use his noodle a lot. Obi-Wan is very wise, and I think held up against Vader's character, we see why that's so beneficial to him. Obi-Wan has been through a really rough time, but he's learned from his mistakes. Vader, also having gone through a really fucking rough time, hasn't learned from any of his mistakes, it seems. He is just driven by rage and hatred, which, like I said, was his downfall in the first place. But anywho, so last episode, I was a little too hasty. The Grand Inquisitor actually isn't dead. Now, I've not watched Star Wars Rebels, so I didn't know. That's on me. I'll take that on the chin. I guess I still should have known though, because it's not irregular for dark side users to cling to the dark side in moments of like extreme injury or like having been maimed. After all, if Maul was able to heal, then I guess there's no reason that the Grand Inquisitor shouldn't have been able to come back. You get a moment that I thought was pretty funny where he's just like,
"Nice bitch. I bet you thought you'd seen the last of me."
And then he's just like, "Give me my fucking pin back." What I got from this scene ultimately was that Reva's rage kept her from seeing how she was being manipulated. And if we've learned anything from Palpatine and Anakin, then that sounds really familiar. So Vader making her Grand Inquisitor made her think that she was getting closer to what she wanted, but ultimately Vader knew her true past all along, and so was using her to help him get to Kenobi in more than one way. But yeah, the episode leaves off. Reva, unfortunately, has found the recording that Bail sent Obi-Wan because it was dropped by Haja. Fucking idiot. And so I can only assume that she is now headed to Tatooine to go after Luke. Now, I'm wondering if she's going to kind of have a come to Jesus moment in this next episode where she realizes if she does go after Luke and like attempt to kill him, you know, there's going to have to be a point where she stops and says, in order to get back at the person that I hate, I'm doing exactly what he did to make me hate him in the first place. And so you have your classic, I've become the thing I sought to destroy. But yeah, in that same vein, there's lots to wrap up in this last episode before we get things in working order the way that they're supposed to be before the events of A New Hope. So I'm excited to see how these loose ends get knotted. But one thing important to remember is that in the first few episodes, Reva talked to Owen, knew him by name, and knows exactly where he is and where to go once she gets to Tatooine. So now obviously when A New Hope starts, we know that Vader, Obi-Wan, Luke, Leia, Bail, all these people are okay. So as I said, I'm excited to see how we get there. Well, yeah, guys, I think that'll do it for me this time. Only one episode left, so I'll definitely be back next week for that. I appreciate everyone who's tuning in. Again, thanks to everyone who is subscribed. Hi again to everyone who's new. I hope you enjoy what you've seen so far. There's lots more to come. So yeah, as always, I appreciate you guys kicking it with me. This has been Kid Achilles, and I'll be seeing you super soon. Peace out.